There are a few little factors that can affect muscle tension, muscle contraction. One thing we have to remember is that all muscles exhibit some kind of tone. Even if you're just sitting on the couch, watching TV, not doing anything, you're still up, you're still sitting up. Okay. You're not just you're not like this. Okay. I still have muscle tone, even though I'm not moving. I'm standing right here. I am not moving. Okay. So I still have it. So muscles exhibit tone. Now, muscle tone is not necessarily muscle movement. Okay? Right now, as you're sitting there watching this and you're holding your head and your head's not moving, your head is still in the position it is. If you did not exhibit muscle tone there, then all of a sudden your head was slopping over. Okay? You couldn't hold it up. Okay? So muscle tone does not generate enough tension for movement. Okay? It is continuously changing. Right? There's nervous innervation going into this muscle all the time. Right? All the time. And even though you're not engaging it and you're not moving it, okay, because remember, skeletal muscle is voluntary, right? But this is information going into that muscle, engaging some motor units. Some motor units will be stimulated, and now, and then these, and then these, and then these, and then relax. And there is this constant random movement around that helps maintain this thing called muscle tone. When it completely relaxes, it's sleep. There's not enough stimulation going into the reticular activating system, and so you fall asleep. And one of the pieces of information that go into that part of the brain area is information from your muscles, from the tendons, from the proprioceptors around joints. So when you get into that sleep, when you lay down and you're not engaging and you completely relax, and then you fall asleep. Okay. But muscle tone is not movement. Okay. It is not movement. It is the normal tension within a muscle that helps to maintain the integrity of joint position. We have a couple different types of contraction. We have isometric and we have isotonic contractions. And for whatever reason, people flip-flop these on an exam quite a bit. So, I mean, I'm going to ask about them. I always tell everybody I ask about them. And still, a lot of people always flip-flop them around. It's interesting. I don't know. Isometric, the muscle tension is increased, right? But it does not move. Right? Muscle length stays the same. Okay. I'm sitting here holding something. Okay, I'm holding this cube. Okay, I am not moving it. Okay, I'm not moving it. I can't move it. It's too heavy for me to move. Okay, but the muscle stays engaged. Okay, the muscle engages. Actin, myosin, muscle, actin, and myosin interact and engage with each other. Blah. But it's not enough to overcome this huge weight I'm lifting right here, to lift it up. Okay, so the muscle engages, so tension increases, but no movement. Okay, no movement. The muscle doesn't shorten. Okay, so the muscle length stays the same. So if the muscle length stays the same and it's not shortening, no movement. Okay, pushing against a wall. The wall ain't going anywhere, right? Your muscles are engaged, but there's no shortening. Okay, so there's no movement. Isotonic, muscle tension overcomes the resistance and we can get movement. We have isotonic contraction involving the muscle shortens as it contracts. And the example right there, biceps brachii when lifting a load. So here's my load and boom, okay? My biceps brachii was able to overcome that, concentric, okay? muscle contract and shorten. The muscle can contract as it lengthens as well, right? And that's the eccentric part of it, right? Lengthens as it contracts, okay? And this is just when you lower a weight slowly. Okay? And we do this holding your baby. Okay? You don't just be blah, throw it down, okay? Gently, okay? So you're engaging those muscles even though it is lengthening out, okay? And that's the eccentric movement. So muscle contracts and does not move, muscle contracts and shortens, or muscle contracts and lengthens, isotonic, and that is movement. Tension depends on how long the stimulation is there. Okay? I think I've kind of made that pretty clear here. Okay? As long as I have impulses coming down, and as long as I have those impulses coming down and stimulating the release of calcium into the sarcoplasm, magic can happen and I can contract and I can maintain that state of contraction. But we can also look at how much overlap we have. Okay? How much overlap we have of actin and myosin. Okay? When we are at resting length, okay, I have optimal, maximal ability for overlap to occur between thick and thin filaments. Okay. Okay. At normal resting length, I can engage and I still have enough to go. I still have enough distance to go to where I can maximally contract and hold that thing. If it's shortened, I generate weaker force. So let's go here. Okay. I'm not rested. Okay, this is not normal resting length. Okay, but let's say it is 75%. Okay, so let's say we're just like around 75%. Okay, so that means this thing is just over here a little bit further. So this myosin head is over here a little bit more. Okay. If that's the case, okay, I can now, let me change my color here. Let me change my color. Let's go gray, sure. I only have this amount of space, okay, instead of this amount of space. So I can still create some force and I can still move, but I can't generate as much maximal force, okay, because I don't have enough interaction between actin and myosin. Okay, so the amount of force I can generate is a little bit less than optimal, okay, at normal resting length. What if this muscle is stretched out? Okay, what if it's stretched out to the point where I have negligible or just a tiny little bit of overlap there between actin and myosin? Okay. If you've ever tried to lift something up when you're maxed out, it's like, and you can't generate any force to get movement. Okay, why is that? Because now I have so little zone of overlap here, so I have so little interaction between actin and myosin to where I can't generate any force, or I can generate very, very, very little force at all because it's too stretched out. Okay, and there's not enough interaction between actin and myosin. So for maximum contraction, maximum force, you want your muscle at normal resting length. Right? If it's contracted a little bit, okay, and now you want to lift something, okay, you can still do it. It's just not the same amount of force. Not enough real estate for actin and myosin to interact with one another to get to that maximum. If it's lengthened out too much, okay, you can't generate that force because there's not enough interaction between actin and myosin. And so the maximum amount of tension or force that you can generate is a hell of a lot less. So I can affect muscle contraction by the number of summations coming in, Okay. Action potentials or nerve impulses. Okay. And keeping that tension in there by recruiting more and more and more motor units, right? I can affect the amount of force that I can create in my muscles by, is it at normal resting length? Is it a little bit contracted? Okay, like, is it a little bit contracted? Okay, normal resting length, extended, too stretched out, can't generate any force to move. Okay, here I've contracted it, and now I can go just a little bit, and I can only, there's only a little bit of movement left, and I can only generate a little bit of force. What else is there? Well, there's really a hell of a lot of stuff. Okay, we can actually exhaust the nerve. Okay, if we have insufficient calcium going into that synaptic knob, that will decrease the number of synaptic vesicles, releasing the neurotransmitter acetylcholine. So we can have exhaustion on the nervous side. We can have impairment of calcium, calcium ions within the sarcoplasmic reticulum because of way too many action potentials coming in, and it fatigues that way. We can have a change in pH with lactic acid buildup, okay, and not getting enough energy. So there's a number of ways that I can also interfere or cause fatigue inside of a muscle. Okay? So there are a number of different things. I don't necessarily ask it as a short question. Usually is a number of multiple choice type questions.